We've been in Namibia for 2 weeks, as you might have seen on the vlog, and we've been vlogging the entire thing. I think we shot 4 or 5 videos in 14 days. And now I have a second trip around Namibia. Same locations, same time frame, but I'm gonna do something a little bit different. I'm not gonna vlog. I get asked all the time, do you think my photos suffer because of the fact that I vlog? And the answer I usually give is, maybe? We'll find out on today's video. But first, today's video is sponsored by Squarespace.com. Squarespace is an awesome place for photographers, or anyone really, to build a professional looking website really quickly. There are a lot of community-driven aspects that go beyond building the website as well. For example, you can make a gated community area to both earn revenue and connect with your audience. And if you're looking to streamline your photography business, there are loads of options to integrate third-party e-commerce programs, which allow you to take payments, manage inventory, promote products, and even streamline your bookkeeping and accounting. Of course, all of this is a bonus beyond the beautiful and easy-to-use Squarespace website templates they're known for. So, head to squarespace.com/BrendanVanson for a 10% discount on your first purchase. Okay, so I'm back in Portugal in the future, and I thought that the best way to answer this question of do I make better photos while I'm vlogging or when I'm not worried about video at all was to do it retrospectively. So that's exactly what's gonna happen. I'm gonna just walk through the trip. Basically, I'm not sure how well I explained this. I did back-to-back photography workshops in Namibia, same itinerary, both trips. One of them I vlogged and filmed video. The second one I didn't shoot a single video clip. All the clips that you see are from Neil's camera. I was only worried about photos. And the answer is definitively, conclusively inconclusive. I don't know if I make better photos, but I'm gonna walk you through basically how I got to that inconclusive conclusion. And I'm going to do it starting with Quiver Tree. Quiver Tree is one of the most beautifully frustrating places in the world to photograph. It reminds me a little bit of Joshua Tree in that everything looked beautiful, everything looks like a great photo, everything just looks like it's ready to be photographed. And then whenever you stick your lens at things, something just seems a little bit off or a little bit out of place. Getting good photos is easy, getting great photos is a little bit trickier. And on my second trip, when I wasn't filming, I noticed something. I noticed how often I find photos through my B-roll. When I'm out filming B-roll, when I'm out wandering a location, I'm constantly with my camera open filming different little segments, trying to fill in the videos. I find photos in that footage so often. I'll be out filming and I'll take a clip and I'll go, oh, there's a photo. I'll stop and I'll set up. And I didn't realize how often that happens until I didn't have my camera out. And about halfway through my second visit to Quiver Tree, it clicked that even though I'm not taking video, it's a really good technique to just wander around a location with a live view open on your camera, just scanning through. A great skill in photographers is being able to see the world through their lens and their camera, without using their lens and their camera. But for those of us who don't have that skill, being able to just walk around and constantly move your camera around and see what the world looks like through that focal length and through that lens with that distortion and with your camera's dynamic range, it allows you to find photos. And so about halfway through the time on my second trip to Quiver Tree, I did that. So let's jump over to Lightroom. The images I got from my first trip to Quiver Tree weren't great. I maybe got 1 or 2 images that are okay, but I really struggled. That being said, I did take about 12 photos that I like. On the second trip to Quiver Tree, we had this weird light. There was a grass fire nearby and it was creating this smoky haze that started out yellow and went blue as we got closer to blue hour. And it made some strange light. And I only took, let's count those, 8 photos in total. But of those 8 photos, I think there's 1, 2, 3 photos compositionally that I like better than the first trip. So I guess advantage to no video for round 1, although that's probably maybe a tie. Round 2, we moved on to Koolmanskop. That's down in Lüderitz. It's the ghost town. And down in Lüderitz on the first trip, I found, I think, my favorite photo I've ever taken at Koolmanskop. And I actually found that photo because of video. I was running around filming B-roll, kind of like what I just mentioned in Quiver Tree, and as I walked into this room, I saw the photo. On the second trip, I found myself inspired almost by that first trip and inspired to just explore more. So, as I mentioned, the first trip, I think I got, let's count them, just through Lightroom, 1, 2, 3 frames that I really like. On the second trip to Coleman's Cop, where I felt maybe a little bit more freedom to explore, I only took 7 photos in total. And of those 7 photos, I like 1 of them. And I don't know if this is a plus or a minus, but when you have that freedom to explore and no pressure to make a photo, you kind of just wander around trying to find things. And sometimes you just run out of light. And that's exactly what happened in Coleman's Cop. I was just exploring so much that I just ran out of time. I wasn't forced to settle on a photo. It's not necessarily a bad thing. It just means that on my second trip to Coleman's Cop, I didn't get anything spectacular. I'm personally going to give the score to trip 1, vlogging. Next we cruise down the road to Sossusvlei and Deadvlei. On the first trip, I've got good photos. But I think that a lot of them were very safe. A lot of the photos I took were things I'd done in the past where I was trying to just put a twist on them. And part of that was because I did feel the pressure on YouTube to create something for you guys to see, something good. And it's an easy crutch to go back to the things you know work and try to just improve on them. On the second trip, I felt absolutely no pressure to make a good photo. And on that first trip, I did make some really good photos. But I don't think I made anything crazy unique, except for the one you're seeing now, which was kind of a play on a photo I'd done in the past anyway. On the first trip to Sossusvlei, I kept 70 photos. So I made a bunch of photos. On the second trip, when I didn't feel that pressure, I definitely took fewer photos. Let's call it 40 photos. But of those photos, I did some classic things. We got really, really nice light at one of the locations that I tend to go to all the time, and made a photo that's different than anything I've ever made there before. But I also took some risks that I wouldn't have taken, I don't think, if I wasn't doing video. I found these dead trees out in the flats, and the sun was rising behind it, and I thought, I wonder what it would look like to put the sun behind those trees. And it felt cheesy at first, but I think the photo I ended up with really works and is something totally unique. And then on top of it, because there was absolutely no pressure of making a great photo, I also went exploring to a totally different part of the park that I'd never been before and came away with this image that is totally unique. In fact, there's probably 2 images from this spot that we found at the side of the road that I don't think I've seen from any other photographer and that I definitely haven't tried myself. And without that freedom to explore, without filming and needing to make an image that day, I found something really cool, and maybe someday I'll go back and vlog that. I don't think I would have found this location if I was vlogging. So from Sossusvlei we cruise on to Swakopmund and the Skeleton Coast, and this is where there was a definite winner, and that's vlogging. So the light wasn't phenomenal on the second trip when we went to Swakopmund. And because I didn't have any pressure to make a photo, I just didn't. Between Swakopmund and the Skeleton Coast, up into Damaraland, I didn't take a photo. It was just one of those things that it was like, oh yeah, that's pretty nice, but is it worth taking my camera out of the bag? I just didn't have pressure and I didn't feel a need to take a photo. Especially because on the first trip, I got really good photos in both Swakopmund and Damaraland and the Skeleton Coast. I didn't feel any pressure, and I think that's a bad thing. I think that vlogging so often has got me out in the world to take photos and take risks and just explore. And without vlogging, I think sometimes you can just be lazy. You can go, well, I don't need to produce anything, so I won't even bother trying. And I think every photographer, no matter how inspired they are, they still need another inspiration to go out and take photos. And for me, quite often, making a YouTube video has been that inspiration to go out and take photos. And so when I didn't have that pressure, it was like, okay, I guess I don't need to take any pictures today. And I would still go out because I was leading a workshop, but I would see a photo and go, is it really worth taking out my camera and setting up my gear? So point definitely to the first trip. I didn't take a photo on the second trip at Swakopmund or the Skeleton Coast. Finally, we're going into Etosha, and Etosha is kind of a tricky one to judge because in wildlife photography, so often it's not just the process, but also what wildlife you see and how far they were away. On the first trip, we got really lucky. We saw cheetahs, rhinos, elephants, all the good stuff, but I was only using a 70-200. On the second trip, we got extremely lucky. We got lions, we saw leopards in the grass, we saw all sorts of awesome things, and I got some great photos. So I don't really want to judge them on vlogging versus not vlogging, but I do want to talk about how on the second trip, I took a lot of risks when I was doing my wildlife photography. And actually they failed, most of them. I had the 100-400, for example, we had this leopard in the grass, and the grass was really moving, and it was incredible. It was absolutely one of the best experiences of my life, seeing this leopard in the grass. 1 minute, you couldn't see it, and then the wind would blow, and you would see the leopard. So I got photos of the leopard that are okay, but I wanted to create something unique. I wanted to try to slow down the shutter speed and kind of catch the moving grasp with the leopard. And it didn't work. I just couldn't get a sharp enough image. It was too dark and it just didn't happen. But I think that not vlogging allowed me to be more creative. I think that normally, if I'm being creative, it's for the purpose of a video. It's like I have an idea and I go, okay, I'm gonna try to do that on today's video. Like the first time in Etosha, I was like, okay, what can I do with the 70-200? And I set that challenge for myself, where I'll go, can you do wildlife photography at 1/10 of a second? I will do those creative challenges for YouTube sometimes, but it's like the idea is there and then I try it in the field. Whereas when I'm not vlogging, I was just going out in the field and trying things. I was trying things that I'd never try normally, just because I wanted to see if they would work. So I think vlogging does lead to risk taking because you're trying to create videos that show that risk. But without an audience, I think in general, you're just willing to take more risks because you're more willing to make mistakes that people aren't gonna see. So that kind of wraps up this video. I think it was a really interesting trial for me. And I think the thing that I learned the most is I need to vlog. I don't know if that applies to everybody. But for me, if I'm not filming videos, if I'm not creating, I don't feel the creative juices flowing. And so often creating a video kind of injects that creative process into my photography. And it happens the other way sometimes. Sometimes I'll be out taking photos without vlogging, and something will inspire me to create a video. So that does happen as well, but I think that I need to vlog. I think that vlogging forces me to get out. It forces me to take better photos. It forces me to try. And for so many years, I used to kind of blame vlogging for not making better photos. Because I'd be like, oh, I didn't have time to do this because I was filming. Or I didn't have time to try that because I was filming. But the reality is, I think that at the end of the day, vlogging is good for me. And I hope you guys are liking the vlogs, because next time, we're going to Antarctica. I'll see you there. Peace.